There comes a moment in every person's life when the mind opens, just for a second, and what you choose to plant in that opening determines everything that follows. If you knew you could activate your mind to attract money, opportunity, and direction within the next 24 hours, would you use that moment right now? Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be listening from tonight, I'd like you to pause for just a moment and consider a simple truth: your mind is the greatest source of wealth you will ever possess. Not the economy, not your job, not the circumstances that swirl around you, your mind. And when it is set in motion with resolute intention, it begins guiding you toward the very things you desire, often more quickly than you imagine. People often ask, can I really manifest money within 24 hours? And the answer is this: you can begin the process instantly, the very moment your thoughts become orderly, directed, and infused with purpose. Wealth, after all, is not something that merely arrives, it is invited by the quality of your thinking. Most of us let our minds drift like a ship without a rudder, thinking about what we lack, what we fear, or what we hope someone else will give us. But the mind responds not to drifting thoughts, but to intentional ones. So tonight I want to share with you a principle so powerful, yet so simple, that it has elevated countless men and women. We become what we think about, especially when what we think about becomes unmistakably clear. If it is money you seek, then you must first become a person who thinks in terms of value, of contribution, of confidence. Money is not attracted to need, but to readiness. You must prepare the soil of your mind before you receive the harvest in your hands. Start by visualizing the amount you wish to attract. See it clearly. Put a number to it. Next, imagine what that money represents: security, opportunity, a new direction, a chance to breathe a little easier. Then ask yourself a profound question: what can I offer today? An idea, a skill, a service that moves me toward this outcome. For money flows like water toward those who have opened channels for it to reach them. The truth is this: when your mind shifts, the world shifts with it. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. You recognize conversations that hold potential. You understand how to act on ideas that once passed by unnoticed. This is not magic. This is awareness, your greatest unseen currency. The mind responds immediately to clear intention because intention is the signal that awakens its hidden machinery. Most people drift through their days with vague hopes, loose ideas, and scattered thoughts, never realizing that the mind cannot respond to what is not defined. But the moment you form a definite decision, firm, unwavering, unmistakably clear, your mind becomes like a compass needle snapping to true north. It knows where to go, and it begins drawing you toward the very thing you have chosen to pursue. This is not mysticism, it is one of the oldest truths known to mankind. Every great achievement began not with effort, but with intention. And the clearer the intention, the faster the movement toward it. Consider how quickly the mind reacts when you decide on something simple, like buying a particular kind of car. Suddenly, you notice that exact car everywhere you go. It didn't appear in greater numbers overnight. Your intention awakened your awareness. Now imagine harnessing that same phenomenon toward wealth, opportunity, or success. The mind cannot give you what you have not asked for with conviction, but ask with clarity, with a decision so firm that it leaves no room for doubt. And the mind begins organizing your inner world to match the picture you hold. Most people underestimate the power of this first step. They want results without decision, reward without commitment. They forget that intention creates direction, and direction creates opportunity. Every door you will ever open begins as a thought, and every thought becomes powerful only when infused with certainty. When you say to yourself, I will attract money within the next 24 hours, something changes inside you. You shift from hoping to expecting, and expectation is the spark that ignites the mind's deeper capacities. The mind responds to intention the way fertile soil responds to a seed. But you must choose the seed deliberately. If you plant doubt, you will harvest hesitation. If you plant fear, you will harvest limitation. But if you plant clear intention, the soil begins its silent work, drawing resources, ideas, and opportunities toward the seed. This is why the direction of your life is determined not by your circumstances, but by the clarity of your thinking. Circumstances adjust themselves to match the internal blueprint you hold with persistence. Clarity of intention also eliminates the noise that distracts most people. When you truly decide on something, distractions fade because they no longer match your chosen objective. You begin to conserve your mental energy, directing it like a beam of focused light toward a single point. And just as a magnifying glass can turn sunlight into fire when focused, the mind can turn intention into results when steady and precise. The moment you decide with absolute clarity, the process of attraction begins. You think differently, speak differently, notice differently. You become sensitive to chances you once missed. The world seems to reorganize itself, not because it changed, but because your mind finally told it what to look for. And everything you seek in one form or another begins moving toward you the instant your intention becomes clear. Prosperity begins as a quiet idea long before it ever makes its way into your hands, your bank account, or your daily life. It begins in that subtle, almost fragile moment when a thought forms and whispers, "More is possible." Most people overlook this moment because they believe wealth is something external, something that appears through luck, circumstance, or the generosity of fate. Yet every fortune that has ever been built, every breakthrough that has ever lifted a person from one level of living to another, first existed as an invisible seed in the mind. The quiet idea precedes the visible result. If you observe the lives of those who have risen to prosperity, you will notice a common thread. They each carried within them an idea that refused to leave them alone. It may have been a vision of a better life, a clearer direction, or a burning desire to change their circumstances, but it was an idea nonetheless, one that began without noise, without applause, without anyone else noticing. The idea existed in the private chambers of the mind, where no one could see it, yet it shaped everything that followed. Prosperity is never an accident, it is an inner decision long before it becomes an outer reality. The remarkable thing about this principle is that quiet ideas often come when the mind is still. In moments of reflection, calm, or solitude, inspiration rises like a gentle wave. But for many, the noise of daily life drowns out these subtle prompts. They rush from task to task, never giving themselves a chance to hear the very whisper that could transform their future. And so prosperity passes them by not because they lack potential, but because they never stop long enough to notice the ideas forming within them. The mind is always attempting to guide us toward growth. It sends us flashes of insight, nudges of intuition, small sparks of imagination. But these sparks require attention to become flames. A quiet idea becomes prosperous only when it is acknowledged, respected, and repeated in thought. The more often you think about an idea, the stronger it becomes. And as it grows, it begins to shape your attitude, your decisions, your actions. A person with a clear internal vision walks differently, speaks differently, and chooses differently. And in time, the world responds accordingly. Prosperity, therefore, is not something you pursue as much as something you give yourself permission to imagine. The mind cannot build what you do not allow yourself to picture. A vague desire produces vague results. But a quiet idea held consistently becomes a blueprint the mind cannot ignore. It begins aligning your thoughts with opportunities, your attention with solutions, and your behavior with results. What begins as nothing more than a gentle notion becomes a force that rearranges your life. This is why the greatest wealth often begins with the simplest of thoughts, that prosperity is possible for you. Once that idea takes root even quietly, the world begins to shift around it. You become receptive to new possibilities. You see paths where once you saw walls, and the idea, once small and delicate, becomes the driving engine of your transformation. You can only receive what you are mentally prepared to accept, for the mind acts as a gatekeeper long before the world ever has a chance to deliver anything to you. Most people hope for more money, more success, more opportunity, yet they remain bound by inner limits they never examine. They desire abundance outwardly while rejecting it inwardly. And the mind, faithful and obedient, reflects that inner refusal in the circumstances of their lives. It is not life that holds them back, but their own belief about what they deserve and what is possible for them. There is an invisible threshold within each person, a level of prosperity they believe they can handle. When any opportunity or reward approaches that surpasses this internal limit, the mind rejects it through doubt, hesitation, or self-sabotage. It does this not out of malice, but out of protection. The mind thinks it is keeping you safe by keeping you familiar. This is why some people earn more yet remain broke. Others rise briefly only to fall back, and others never even attempt to climb. Their outer world simply cannot exceed the capacity of their inner acceptance. This principle reveals something extraordinary. If you wish to receive more, you must first expand your belief about what is appropriate for you. That expansion begins not with greed or force, but with understanding that abundance is a natural state for a person who thinks abundantly. Wealth is as natural as health, as harmony, as growth, but you must be willing to see yourself as someone capable of receiving it. A seed cannot grow in soil that rejects it, and prosperity cannot grow in a mind that denies its own worthiness. The truth is, the mind will only allow you to experience what aligns with your self-image. If you see yourself as someone struggling, opportunity will feel foreign. If you see yourself as someone limited, possibility will feel dangerous. But if you train your self-image to match the level of prosperity you seek, the mind begins working with you instead of against you. It becomes a channel rather than a barrier. And once the mind is open, the world follows with remarkable speed. Most people wait for evidence before they believe, not realizing that belief itself is the evidence that invites more. Acceptance precedes manifestation. You must accept the idea of prosperity before prosperity becomes a fact in your life. This acceptance is silent, inward, and deeply personal. It begins with imagining yourself living at the level you desire, feeling calm and natural in that state. Not shocked, not overwhelmed, simply aligned. The mind must believe the experience belongs to you before it allows it to unfold. When you lift your internal limits, everything external rises to meet the new standard. You make different choices, more confident movements, clearer decisions. You seek opportunity instead of fearing it. You speak with a tone of a person who expects good things to happen. And because your mind is prepared to accept more, it no longer turns away the chances that were always waiting for you. The world expands only as much as your willingness to receive expands, for you are never kept from prosperity by the outside, you are kept from it only by the borders of your own acceptance. Money moves toward clarity, purpose, and disciplined thought because these qualities form the very structure upon which prosperity is built. Most people imagine money as something elusive, unpredictable, or somehow independent of their inner world. Yet money behaves much like energy. It flows in the direction where it is welcomed, understood, and given a meaningful place to go. It is never the frantic, scattered thinker who attracts financial opportunity, but the individual whose mind functions with order, intention, and a sense of direction. Clarity is the first signal that the mind is ready to receive. When you know exactly how much you desire, why you desire it, and what you intend to do with it, you create a magnetic field around your thinking. The mind becomes alert, responsive, and keenly aware of anything that aligns with that vision. But when a person's thoughts are cloudy and vague, I want more money someday, the mind treats it as a suggestion without urgency or definition. Clarity gives shape to your desire, and shape is the foundation of manifestation. Money cannot find its way to someone who has not built a mental structure for it to enter. Purpose adds fuel to that structure. Money is attracted to usefulness. When you attach your desire for wealth to a meaningful objective, improving your life, expanding your contribution, elevating your future, the mind becomes energized by a sense of mission. This mission sharpens perception and strengthens conviction. Purpose tells the mind that the wealth you seek has a place. People without purpose often mishandle their finances or lose their drive once money arrives, because they had no deeper reason for acquiring it. Purpose steadies the mind and directs prosperity into channels that support growth. Then there is disciplined thought, the true hallmark of a prosperous mind. It is not intensity but consistency that shapes destiny. People often picture wealth, get excited, and then allow old habits of doubt, fear, and scattered thinking to reclaim control. But the individual who disciplines their thoughts, who renews their intentions daily, who monitors their inner dialogue, who refuses to dwell on limitation, creates a mental environment where money feels at home. Discipline is the quiet force that transforms intention into reality. It keeps the mind from drifting back into old patterns that repel opportunity. When clarity, purpose, and disciplined thought work together, the mind becomes a finely tuned instrument. It begins noticing ideas that once slipped by unseen. It recognizes potential in conversations, situations, and circumstances that others dismiss. It sees pathways to increase where others see difficulty. This is the power of an ordered mind. It acts like a beacon, signaling to the world that you are ready, prepared, and capable of handling prosperity. Money gravitates toward those who think with precision. It avoids confusion, indecision, and emotional chaos because those states scatter the very energy required to attract and hold wealth. But when your thoughts move with clarity, when they are grounded in purpose, and when they are guided by discipline, you create a mental landscape where prosperity is not a visitor but a resident, where opportunity does not appear sporadically but consistently. Responding faithfully to the order you establish within your own mind, your dominant thought becomes your dominant experience because the mind, with all its complexity and brilliance, is ultimately a servant to the idea you hold most consistently. It arranges your perceptions, influences your decisions, directs your attention, and shapes your actions according to the thought you repeat with the greatest emotional intensity. Most people never realize that they are living in the reflection of their most persistent thinking. They believe life happens to them, when in truth, life happens through them, constructed by the very thoughts they allow to occupy their minds day after day. Consider how a single idea, held long enough, begins to color your entire outlook. If you repeatedly think about lack, you become attuned to shortages, obstacles, and limitations. Your mind, ever loyal, filters your world to confirm what you believe. You overlook opportunities because you are not looking for them. You interpret challenges as proof of difficulty rather than stepping stones toward growth. In this way, a thought that seems small becomes a lens, and the lens becomes a reality you cannot escape until you change the thought that created it. But when your dominant thought is one of abundance, possibility, and advancement, the world you encounter transforms. The same challenges appear, yet they seem navigable. The same circumstances exist, yet they feel full of promise. The mind reconfigures your awareness, drawing your attention to potential paths, ideas, and connections that match the inner picture you hold. You begin to notice the very things that others, thinking in terms of limitation, never see. What you focus on expands because your dominant thought acts as a command to your mind, directing it toward the experiences that align with that focus. There is a quiet but profound truth hidden in this principle. The mind cannot hold a dominant thought without eventually expressing it in outward form. You may not see the results instantly, but the moment your thinking becomes consistent, the process has already begun. Your conversations change, your posture shifts, your energy becomes different. You speak with clarity rather than uncertainty, with purpose rather than hesitation. People respond to you differently because you carry an inner message that communicates confidence before a single word is spoken. Those who achieve great things understand that the mind is always creating, whether consciously or unconsciously. They choose their dominant thoughts deliberately, knowing that what they plant will grow. They feed their minds ideas of progress, discipline, and prosperity, and in time those ideas solidify into habits, habits into outcomes, and outcomes into a life shaped by design rather than by chance. They understand that the world is not withholding anything from them. Their thoughts are either aligning them with opportunity or distancing them from it. Your dominant thought determines what becomes familiar to you. If success feels natural, you will move toward it. If wealth feels normal, you will welcome it. But if limitation feels familiar, you will return to it again and again, regardless of how hard you try to escape. Change your dominant thought, and you change your relationship with life itself. The mind begins seeking the experiences that match your new internal pattern, quietly reshaping your days until your outer world becomes a mirror of the belief you chose to hold within yourself. Success belongs to the individual who thinks in terms of abundance, not scarcity, because the mind can only create from the materials it holds most often. A person who fills their thoughts with images of plenty, with visions of growth and advancement, naturally walks in the direction of opportunity. They are inclined to take action where others hesitate, to see potential where others see barriers, and to expect favorable outcomes where others brace for disappointment. Abundance is not merely a financial condition. It is a mental atmosphere, a state of inner richness that precedes any outward prosperity. Belief alters the quality of your movement. A person who believes in their goal moves with purpose. They speak differently, walk differently, and think with greater clarity. Their decisions are sharper because they are no longer evaluating whether something is possible, but how it will unfold. This shift creates a momentum that compounds. The first step produces the next, and before long, progress begins to appear where doubt once stood. Belief acts as an internal engine, pushing you forward when others would stop, allowing you to endure difficulties with a sense of calm assurance. Life has a way of responding to conviction. Opportunities open for the individual who moves with certainty, not because the world favors them, but because their belief sharpens their perception. They notice things the doubtful mind overlooks. They act quickly where others hesitate. They follow through where others quit. In this way, belief multiplies your effectiveness. A single action taken with unwavering confidence can carry more force than a dozen taken with reluctance or fear. Most people misunderstand this principle. They believe they must wait for evidence before forming belief, yet all great accomplishments show the opposite to be true. Belief must come first. It is the seed from which action draws its strength. You are not required to know how everything will unfold. You are only required to know that it will. And when action springs from that place of inner certainty, each step taken becomes an investment that yields returns far greater than the effort you put in. The mind is built to support what you believe. It aligns your thoughts, heightens your awareness, and strengthens your resolve. When you act from that depth of conviction, the world begins shifting in ways that mirror your inner certainty. This is why every action, when backed by belief, becomes multiplied in its effect, carrying you toward your goal with a power that doubt could never provide. The fastest way to manifest money is to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with opportunity, for when all three point in the same direction, the mind becomes a powerful instrument of attraction. Most people think about money, but they feel uncertainty, and they act with hesitation. This divided state weakens their efforts. Thoughts pull one way, emotions another, and actions scatter in several directions. But when your inner world is unified, when your thinking is clear, your feelings are confident, and your actions are decisive, you create a harmony that draws opportunity toward you with surprising speed. Alignment is the quiet secret behind every rapid transformation. Thoughts are the blueprint. They determine what you allow yourself to imagine, what you believe is possible, and what you expect from life. When your thoughts revolve around limitation, the mind closes its doors to new avenues. But when you consistently think in terms of possibility, the mind begins watching for anything that matches that possibility. A clear mental picture creates a path for results to follow, like laying down tracks before a train arrives. Without the picture, the train has nowhere to go. Emotions provide the energy. They determine the strength of your signal and the intensity of your attraction. You cannot expect prosperity while feeling fear, resentment, or doubt. These emotions send the mind into retreat. But when you feel gratitude, confidence, and anticipation, you activate a powerful emotional current that amplifies your thinking. Emotion is the fuel of manifestation. When the right emotion accompanies the right thought, movement begins immediately. Action completes the circuit. Many imagine wealth, some even feel inspired by it, but only a few act on the opportunities that appear. Action signals commitment. It tells the mind and the world that you are ready to receive. When you take even a small step toward your goal, you awaken potential that would have remained dormant. The moment your actions support your thoughts and emotions, opportunity begins to accelerate toward you, often from directions you did not expect. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions work together, the world responds with clarity. Ideas emerge that once eluded you. Individuals appear who have answers, information, or pathways you need. Situations shift in your favor. Chance encounters become meaningful. What others call luck is simply alignment at work. You are no longer pulling against yourself, but moving forward with quiet, deliberate momentum. Allowing prosperity to find you as naturally as water flows toward open space, your environment will shift the moment your mindset shifts, because the world is a reflection of your inner state. Most people believe that circumstances dictate thought, that the outside must change before the inside can. Yet time and again, we see the reverse to be true. When a person changes the way they think, the surroundings, relationships, and opportunities respond almost immediately. The mind is the filter through which you perceive reality, and when that filter is adjusted toward clarity, confidence, and expectation, everything around you begins to reorganize in response. This is not merely perception, it is principle at work. Consider how a small change in attitude can transform an ordinary room into a place of possibility. A confident, expectant mind begins noticing ideas, solutions, and resources that were always present but previously overlooked. Conversations that once seemed trivial now contain hidden opportunities. People who once seemed distant become allies. Doors that seemed closed reveal a keyhole of possibility. The environment does not magically change, it always contained what was needed, but your new mindset allows you to see it and act on it. The shift begins internally, and the external world aligns itself with your renewed awareness. When your thinking moves toward abundance, clarity, and purpose, you no longer attract distraction or delay. Instead, circumstances that match your new level of expectation appear. Opportunities come in forms that were invisible to your former mindset. Your energy, demeanor, and focus influence how others respond to you. The people around you sense your direction, and they react accordingly, either supporting or resisting. By changing your mindset, you create a ripple that subtly transforms your entire environment, drawing it closer to the reality you are now capable of handling. This principle underscores the importance of vigilance over your thoughts. To allow scarcity, fear, or doubt to dominate is to maintain a world that mirrors limitation. To cultivate faith, intention, and vision is to create an environment that mirrors growth. Every choice, every perspective, every thought contributes to the invisible architecture of your life. Shift the mental structure, and the walls of circumstance, once rigid, become flexible, aligning themselves to support your aspirations. It is also a reminder that you carry your environment within yourself. You can walk into a crowded room, a chaotic office, or a difficult situation, and if your mind is clear and your expectations are firm, you will find solutions, allies, and opportunities where others see only noise. The environment is never separate from your thinking. It mirrors, amplifies, and responds to it. When you change the mind, the world begins to change in tandem. Within 24 hours, Your life can change direction if you change the direction of your thinking, because the mind moves faster than circumstance ever could. Most people imagine that transformation requires months, years, or even decades, yet the truth is that a single shift in thought, held with conviction, can begin a cascade of events that alters your path almost immediately. Time itself is obedient to the clarity, intensity, and focus of your mind. When your thinking aligns with purpose and expectation, the world responds in ways that often seem astonishingly quick, though in reality, it has been waiting for your signal all along. The mind acts like a compass, and your dominant thought is the needle. If you point it toward limitation, fear, or indecision, you wander aimlessly, reacting to circumstances rather than shaping them. But when you set your thought deliberately toward a specific goal, your mental direction begins to organize everything you perceive. Opportunities you once overlooked become visible. Conversations take on new significance. Ideas you would have dismissed now seem like stepping stones. Your actions, previously scattered, begin to coordinate with a sense of purpose, and momentum builds with a speed few anticipate. Many people fail to recognize how quickly results can appear because they underestimate the influence of a focused mind. They cling to old routines, old beliefs, and old fears, thinking that change must follow some external timetable. But the truth is that the mind is always in motion, and when you decide to redirect its energy with purpose and belief, the flow of life around you cannot remain static. The mind begins to reorder circumstances subtly at first, then more dramatically, drawing your external reality into alignment with the internal vision you have chosen. This is why immediacy is possible. You do not have to wait for months of preparation or for luck to intervene. The moment you think clearly, act decisively, and expect faithfully, you initiate a chain reaction. The world responds to the direction of your mind, and within a single day, opportunities, insights, and pathways that were previously invisible can emerge, setting your life on a trajectory that reflects the power of your chosen thought